My name is Christina Zenato. I'm originally from Italy. I grew up in the rainforest of the Congo and Central Africa. And then through a series of choices and circumstances about 29 years ago, I ended up on the island of Grand Bahama to learn how to scuba dive and ended up staying there for the last 29 years, where I still live and work as a diving professional, and I'm involved in a shark work. Here, I met a gentleman, unfortunately no longer with us, Ben Rose. He was my mentor and the person that introduced me also to the world of caves. And since then, I've traveled to very different destinations to meet people that work with sharks, live with sharks, and have kind of like the same interest. And I had the opportunities to obviously work with up to 12 different species of sharks in the world, between all around the Bahamas, tigers, bulls, lemons. And then I ended up in the cold waters to meet the blue sharks, makos, and even great whites in different parts of the world. But most of my work is with Caribbean reef sharks. This is one of the most common species that we have in the Bahamas. And I find it very unfortunate. One of the biggest battles that I actually have to fight is most people, when you say shark, automatically they hear the soundtrack behind their heads. Ta-dun, ta-dun, ta-dun. So, one of the biggest battles that I do is there are over 500 species of sharks in the oceans of the world. And so, when we say the word shark, we need to start going with our brain to the differences. One size does not fit all. And this part of the work that I try to do is let's start thinking about sharks the same way we think about birds. Not all birds fly, not all birds sing beautifully, nor nest in the trees. And that's also with sharks. Let's consider the biggest sharks in the world. That's the whale shark. It's the biggest fish in the ocean. And the smaller shark in the world, which is the dwarf lantern shark. So at this point, we cannot say that these two sharks, just between these two, they behave the same, they feed the same, or they do the same contribution to the environment that they're in. And that is where we start understanding sharks. Sharks have been in our cultures for thousands of years. We're both fascinated, afraid, obsessed. They keep us out of the ocean. They make us go in the ocean. They have all this power. Aristotle describes sharks in his writing as early as 331 BC. Sharks are represented in the mosaics of Pompeii. You see the Italian background there? There's the sharks were worshipped as gods and good fortune in many islands of the Pacific and Hawaii. In Fiji, they're actually given the name of River of Light. They're believed to drive the fishers to catching their own fish. And they say, follow me in a phosphorescence that I create at night as I wake through the water. Think about the relationship of these people with the sharks. Unfortunately, in our world, mostly the Western world, the modern world, uh, oh, sorry, when we say sharks, we have a very negative connotation of their presence. I have at times been introduced by parents to their kids. And they go, hey, this is Christina. This is the shark lady. If you don't behave, she will feed you to them. Thank you for destroying the last 20 years of my work in one sentence. But that's what they do. That's what we do with sharks. The thing is, for me, is I love sharks. And I love sharks since the first day I actually learned about them. And that was a long time ago. I was very fortunate. I grew up inspired. This is my dad, 1957, in his military out gear with his pure oxygen rebreather, conquering the world. But I grew up with these black and white pictures and the story of a rich Mediterranean. And so I always been brought to that. I used to go in the water with my dad, and we went snorkeling and free diving. And my dream was to see sharks. And he would say, Christina, sharks don't like people. I've been in the ocean all my life, and you will not be able to see them. It's very unlikely. So no matter how much time I spent on the ocean in Africa, in the Mediterranean, I actually didn't see any sharks. And one of the things that I actually learned, there are no monsters in the sea, only the one we make up in our heads. I do apologize for the microphone. The monsters are not out there, they're all in here. And our job is to eradicate them from here and bring them back to their natural state. My childhood dream was not to be a ballerina, 2 left feet. My childhood dream was to be an underwater scuba ranger who would roam the oceans telling people what to do, what not to do. Don't touch that. Don't do this. And I would have a school of sharks following me. I would have sharks for friends. So at age 22, through a series of circumstances and different opportunities and choices and a week time to drop my boyfriend, job, and car at my parents, I moved back to the Bahamas to assume this life. And to this day, I'm not leaving. And I'm not leaving because of the sharks, because that's basically my family. And of course, because of the caves. But for that, you need to come back tomorrow for that story. So we're not going to talk about caves right now. Sharks, I find them vulnerable. How many of you associate the word sharks with vulnerable? I do. When somebody said, describe me sharks in one word, vulnerable. And I try to share this with others. I see sharks injured. I see shark damage. We affect them directly and indirectly. We are invading every single space that is theirs and also the ones that they use to survive. Our human activity is affecting them. I know my sharks by name. To me, I recognize them as I would recognize each and every one of you in the crowd. Actually, sorry, I recognize them better than each and every one of you in the crowd because I spend so much time with them. They have personalities, they have stories, they have feelings, they have different ways of presenting themselves. Some learn fast, some learn slow, some are standoffish, some are very interested and very involved. Some have been on a dive site for over 13 years. This is Grandma. She takes the name from the light skin color, like the gray hair of Grandma, and her gentle nature. This is Hook. She has a little deformity on the back of her dorsal fin that looks like a little hook, and that's where her name comes from. And this is Stumpy. She's missing a little piece of her tail. I still do not understand why my friends don't allow me to name their kids, but these are the sharks that I work with. And then there's Foggy Eye, with a blind eye and a little bit of very standoffish attitude until one day I removed a really bad hook from her throat. And then after I did that, she turned around and became one of the most approachable sharks. One that would just come up to me and lean into me more than any other shark. So they come in a little bit for being touched. So I am attached to my sharks. I love them. I worry about them. And I find that what we do, shark tourism, again, not the subject of this presentation, has improved their likelihood to survive, has increased their value, and it actually has helped educate thousands of people who are invited by the sharks and allowed to share their space. Sharks allow us to share their space. The ocean is not our space. We're absolutely not designed to be underwater. But we do that. And so people basically start learning and appreciating a little bit more the harshness that we're putting these animals through. Shark tourism is a huge income for the Bahamas. These are some of my kids. These are the Bahamians that I've trained through the years, involved in the industry, moving into becoming shark tourism, oceanographers, teachers, science people. Even I have someone that is in the Coast Guard and is monitoring illegal shark trafficking, because coming through this, they fell in love with what the ocean is, what surrounds islands, and basically what they do. And through that, as Andy said, in 2011, through a petition and a cooperation with Bahama National Trust and the Pew organization, we pushed one of the most comprehensive laws that is protecting the sharks all over the territory of the Bahamas. No loopholes, nothing. Not just about finning, is you cannot even land a dead shark. You have to let go. And that comes through being there, shark tourism, and trying to share these animals with them. So as I spend so much time with them, I want to help them the same way I would help my pup. I would help an animal stranded on the side of the road. And this is where the hook removal comes in. Basically, what I do is I start removing hooks from sharks because I could see how much they suffered. I could see their infected jaws. I could see when they couldn't eat. I can see when they were like slamming their bodies into the sand, trying to dislodge the hook. I saw how uncomfortable they have. So I removed the hook to help that particular shark. Yes, I know I'm not going to be able to help all the sharks in the world. That's not the goal. The goal is to say, look, I can help this one in this way. And because I can, I do. And so it brings the sharks to a different level. People, all of a sudden, they go, oh, wow, I actually never thought sharks could feel pain. I grew up with the notions that animals in the ocean don't feel pain. They do. And people basically realize that sharks are creatures and feel pain. They're not jaws at the end of nerve endings ready to snap at everything that moves. By the way, that's how someone defined sharks to me once. They told me they actually think with their jaws, they don't think with their brains. That sounds more, yeah, that way. So for each hook that I remove, I hope that someone out there learns to change the way they look at sharks. Maybe to put themselves in a different relationship with the ocean and their habitats. I know I'm preaching to the choir. You guys are divers and lovers of the ocean, but sometimes this message reaches a little bit further. And then I actually, as I remove one hook, I make that difference for that one shark. And hopefully, I hope to reach a wider audience, to be able to tell them, hey, look, this is one of the things we can do. And I don't want to hear, well, the hook will rust anyway. That is cruel. I mean, how many of you would like to walk around with just even a little splinter in your finger? Why would I relieve a hook when I can make a difference for them? So as I remove hooks, more sharks with hooks appear, even sharks that I don't know. And so as I remove a hook, I create hundreds of ambassadors who now reach out to me and say, I want to help sharks. That's my box of hope. It was gifted to me while I visited China, while I was helping them for a campaign against the shark finning. And it has over 300 hooks in it. These are my sharks. My pack, I call this picture the tight hug. This is my shark. This is my family. This is my pack. They are the ambassadors of all the other sharks out there without a voice. They are the symbol of what we can actually do as an individual. I will not make a difference to set 8 billion people. Or I can make the difference for that one individual, say 8 billion people. And imagine if each one of us made one difference for someone else. We all have the capability to do that. So what is the heartbreaking part of this relationship? There is one thing that some people don't understand, I get very attached to them. But like all animals that do through a life cycles, which is different from species to species. And so some days I show up on a dive and someone is not there. And then she's not there. And then she's not there. And day after day, I keep looking. Until one day, I have to admit to myself that I will never see her again. And that is maybe for me the hardest part, like Mad Eye, Foggy Eye, or most recently, Stumpy. My relationship is with them one of love, one of worry, one of hope, and it's all mixed together. And it's one of never closure, because at the end of the day, sorry, at the end of the day, it's one that every time one of them leaves, it leaves with a little piece of my soul that I will never get back. Thank you.